Cruise news time, and today we are talking about the celebrity cruise ship that is celebrating a birthday, talking about several hundred cruise passengers who had to find a new way to get home, and we got to talk about this guy in New Hampshire that made one of the cardinal cruise mistakes. He misused his cell phone on a cruise ship, all the while thinking he was doing the right thing just to get himself a cruise bill shocker. Cruise news and my views. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to La Lido Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here to talk you through everything going on in cruising. And we got a lot of cruise news popping off for today, October the 12th, 2023. Happy Thursday, everybody. The first cruise news story I would like to submit to you is a birthday celebration story. This time we're celebrating the 15th year of service for the Celebrity Solstice. The 2,850 passenger Celebrity Solstice was the first cruise ship in the Solstice class for Celebrity. She was constructed at the Meyer-Werft shipyard in Germany. And well, like I said, she's celebrating her 15-year anniversary. I think these birthdays are important for cruise ships for a couple reasons. I think it's important to remember that there's brand new cruise ships out there, and then there's some aged cruise ships out there. And once you get to be 15, 20, 25, 30 years old in the cruise space, well, that's pretty aged. I mentioned it the other day. I don't think it was on a show. Maybe it was in a live stream or something like that. I heard some people complaining about the condition of a 20-year-old cruise ship, talking about how they saw rust on the cruise ship and there was some dents and dings on the cruise ship. I think it's important just to lay the PSA out right here. If you book yourself on a 10-year-old cruise ship, a 15-year-old cruise ship, a 20-year-old cruise ship, it's not going to be as pristine or as nice or as new than a 1-year-old cruise ship or a 5-year-old cruise ship. I think you got to check yourself, be a little bit realistic, level set your expectations. I just put it out there lest anybody be disappointed in their cruising vacation. Happy birthday, Solstice. Here's to another trip around the sun. Cruise news story number 2, a kind of a harrowing tale about cruise passengers who were on a cruise ship, the MSC Musica, when the conflict broke out in Israel. 800 Israeli citizens on that cruise ship, and after this war started, MSC, the Musica, decided that it could not return to Haifa, where their cruise began, that they needed to keep that cruise ship out of harm's way. But the challenge was they had people that had to get back to their homes in Israel. So what did they do? Well, MSC chartered a whole nother cruise ship, and they put the folks on that cruise ship and returned them back to their homeland. Since the attack on Israel over the weekend, we have been covering kind of the ins and outs, the impacts to cruising. This is one that I didn't even consider. But yeah, certainly people on cruise ships that needed to get back home, and MSC finding a creative way to doing it without bringing the big cruise ship back to Haifa. So glad everybody got home without incident, and good on MSC for taking care of their passengers. Now we got to talk about this New Hampshire man who got himself a surprise phone bill after he thought he had done everything right. This gentleman, Danny Smith, went on a wonderful bucket list cruise, going over to Barcelona to cruise the Mediterranean for his 60th birthday. And like many people who travel internationally, he had that question in his mind, will I be able to use my cell phone while I'm traveling internationally? And he's a T-Mobile customer, so he reached out to T-Mobile and he said, hey, T-Mobile, I'm traveling internationally to Barcelona, to the Mediterranean. Can I use my cell phone? And they're like, yeah, you can use your cell phone. You just need to make sure you pay the $50 for the month for the international plan. He had 2 cell phones. He paid the $50 each. He had the international plan, and he went on his way. Seemingly, he used his cell phone at the port stops that he was on that cruise, but also, it does seem like he used his cell phone while he was cruising in the Mediterranean to make phone calls and to send text messages, and this is when he got in trouble. He received a message while he was on the ship that his cell phone bill was increasing, and then he needed to stop using his cell phone. And of course, upon getting a message like that, he was justifiably concerned. He got on the horn with T-Mobile and they're like, no, you got the international plan. You should be fine. But by day 10 of his 12-day cruise, one of his cell phones had been completely shut off. And when he got home, he found himself with a $600 cell phone bill, which was drastically more expensive than his normal cell phone bill. He got on the horn with T-Mobile and said, hey, what's the dealio? I was told that everything was okay. I had the international plan. And they're like, yeah, you do have the international plan, but it does not apply to when you are sailing on cruise ships. Now, he went back and forth with T-Mobile. They reduced his bill a little bit. He still didn't feel completely satisfied. He reached out to a local TV station, and they're working with him to help him get his cell phone money back. And in working with that local TV station, he said one of the reasons that he brought it to the public's attention is because he wanted this story to come to the public's attention. And well, fortunately, I have some experience with this that I thought I would share so that maybe you don't get hit with a cell phone bill while you are cruising. I'm a T-Mobile customer. They do have an international plan that works fantastically, which means when you travel to different countries and you're in the ports of other countries, you can jump on your cell phone and you can use text and data. I've been to many countries where I've been able to use text, data, phone calls in their country. But an important distinction to remember here is the international plan covers when you are in those port cities. It does not cover when you are cruising on the water from one port city to another, at least for T-Mobile. I've had this scenario before where I've used my cell phone all day and I forgot to go into airplane mode. I forgot to turn off the cellular signal. And shortly after I began to cruise from one location to another, I've received a text message that says, hey, it looks like you're on a cruise ship. We don't cover this time when you're on a cruise ship. If you want to avoid fees, you should shut it off. And in addition to that, I've had other scenarios that many have had. Sometimes when you leave your cell phone signal on a cruise ship, you will see a connection to a service called Cellular at Sea. And Cellular at Sea is different than cellular service on land. When you are on land, when you are in a port, your cell phone connects to a tower on land and it makes its connection back to your cell phone provider. When you're using Cellular at Sea, you're actually making a connection to the satellite first, and then you're making a connection to your cell phone provider. And for most providers, that service is not free. On my last cruise, when I was going into Canada, I checked it out. I saw Cellular at Sea. I looked it up for T-Mobile. It was $5 or $6 per minute to use Cellular at Sea. I didn't want to do that. I went to the Cellular at Sea website as I was researching the story today, and it does appear that Cellular at Sea does offer plans for like AT&T and Verizon. I didn't see any mention for any other cellular providers. And so taking all of this in and knowing all the different stories of people that have had struggles with their cell phone on cruise ships, the best advice that I can give continues to be when you get on the cruise ship, switch your phone into airplane mode. That's going to shut off your cellular connection. That's actually going to shut off your Wi-Fi connection most of the time. But once you're in airplane mode, you can turn your Wi-Fi connection on and use the ship's Wi-Fi, but don't turn your cellular signal back on until you are somewhere where you're in port, somewhere where you're on land. And beyond that, make sure you know what services you are allowed when you're traveling internationally. It's not necessarily super complicated, but there is a lot of nuance to it. And sometimes, depending where you have your cell phone signal turned on at, you run the risk of paying roaming fees, of getting charged for using services that are not included with your cellular plan. And so you've got to be extra careful so that you don't show up at I was surprised that his bill was only like $600. Like, maybe it's because I got a ton of kids and I've had 7 lines on my cell phone forever, it seems. And so I was expecting him to have thousands of dollars in cell phone charges. But I think Mr. Smith benefited from something I have often, the fact that T-Mobile is really good about telling you when you're going to get overcharged for something. So at least that is helpful in a way. But yeah, have you ever had any issues with your cell phone on a cruise ship? I would love to hear that story. Leave a comment below. That is your latest cruise news. Please consider subscribing to stay informed. Maybe you want to roll over that like button on the way out. This is Tony for La Liga Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye. Cruise news.